Hey guys, how's it going? So what am I working on now? Finally working on that Ranger. Customer had bought the vehicle like this. They had just bought it, so they were unaware of any of this issue. So we are fixing it. So we got to take the tank out. Doesn't have much fuel in it, luckily. But let me just show you real quick what we're going to be doing. The shop is very noisy today, so bear with me. So we're going to be dropping the tank out. Let me just show you a few things. So in order to drop the tank out, I'm gonna take the dry shaft out. I always mark dry shafts. Now this dry shaft looks like it's been out before, but I didn't really notice any markings on it. So don't know if they put it back in the right spot or not, but I'm putting it back in the spot where it was at. Now this bolts in front and back. Usually you don't have to do this. I did the two marks like this just to show you in case you would forget what direction the dry shaft went in, because this flange, I believe, will bolt up back there. So I only did that because I got two marks back here, one back there. It's kind of foolproof, can't forget which way it goes. I'm gonna take the dry shaft out. We have the straps. I gotta come out, strap bolts. Got the two hoses up there. Hold on a second, I'll tell you in a second. And then as it's coming down, I gotta disconnect those hoses there. What I was gonna say is when you're doing something like this, you're dealing with fuel. Do not use electric tools. Like I got my electric 1/4-inch ratchet, I got my electric guns and that. Do not use them, use air. So I got the compressor running today and everything else for this. So I'm not gonna show you every step, but I will show you the actual repairs. And then I gotta fix these fuel lines too. This debacle we have here, which really shouldn't be too bad of a fix. So, but we'll get into that. But first, let's drop the dry shaft out and we're gonna take those hoses off. And like I said, everything done by hand or with air. All right, let's get to it. All right, so the tank is hanging, and there you see the fuel pump. I got the hoses tucked up and over. Actually, I took the smaller hose off, but you gotta get the fuel lines in that off. I already got the one main line off, and Ford uses this style lock. Oops, focus, there we go. This style lock. So you gotta get these out. You should replace them when you go back together because that little tab right there is a lock to hold it in place. Here is the old hose, the old vent hose, and as you see in my gloves, it's actually coming apart. And I was able to get that off, and I wanted to measure this because this is a straight up piece of hose. That hose is a molded hose. This one is just a straight up hose, but it has to be fuel resistant. So. Anyway, so I got that off. So let me get the rest of these fuel lines off and this tank should come right out. Okay, so the tank is down. Now, I don't know how this wound up like this, but I'm sure this was created by the person that did the pump. No idea who they were. But if you look, you see this hose? And you see how it's kind of got that collapsed look to it there? You know why? All right, you see something wrong here? Okay, here's the tank. Here's where the tank sat. There's the fuel necks. This doesn't make any sense. This was, hold on, let me go to this side so I can hold the tank. This was like this. That's why you couldn't put fuel in it. You see it? So this was like this. So if somebody had rotated this hose somehow, that wasn't from the factory. There's no way this was like this from new. So, well, we got a new hose. You can see it's actually holding that deformed look to it right now. But yeah, so that's it. So, all right. I got the new hose. Let me go grab that and I'll show you what that's all about. Actually, let me get some compressed air and I'm gonna clean all of this off. Blow this off and put some caps on here so I don't get dirt in the tank. Okay, so here is the replacement hose. It's Precision FNH015, in case you're doing this job. And as you can see, it's a formed hose. You can't use like radiator hose, even though it looks like radiator hose. Radiator hose is not fuel resistant. And also, this is a much thinner wall than a radiator hose. A little more flexible. Okay, so we're just going to set this to the side. I got to get some caps for that and then clean all the dirt off of that thing. I got it all blown off there. I'm not going nuts, but I blew it off with compressed air. and I can take these caps off. I save these caps. Anytime I get something that has some kind of a cap on it, I save them because they do come in handy for things like this. And sometimes too, when you're taking stuff apart, you have fluid leaking out, and you can take caps and just stick them in and block up the hole. So, plastic and rubber caps. You see? I'll just keep them in there. But yeah, so I'm actually still kind of amazed with that. I mean, that's pretty amazing that that was in the car like that. So somebody had rotated that clamp. I was able to rotate this clamp with a little pressure. I'm sure I could probably do it with this one too, but I don't know. I don't get it. That was man-made. That didn't just happen. So, all right. Like I said, lots of noise in the shop. So let me move this out of the way. Let me get over to that. I got my little lights up here. I tell you, I love these lights. They're excellent. And as you see, they give quite a bit of light. So, all right, let me move this off to the side, and let's get onto that. Really all I'm going to do is pull the hose off to start with, and then I'm going to show you what we're going to do. It's actually the next day. Had other things I had to do. But yeah, what a miserable day it is today. Rainy, nasty, and we have an empty parking lot. Not too busy. So anyway, back to this. I actually had to push this thing out yesterday. But onto this, I'll pull this hose off. As you see, I undid the clamps, but check this out. This is the reason I said this is not safe. Okay. See how easy that just falls off of there? Because there's nothing holding it in place. Just a clamp pressure. That's not enough. And then they used a zip tie here, which I already cut off, and then they used this Velcro strap. I mean, come on. So, let me get this off of here and then I'll show you the right way to fix this. Now, same with this end here. As you see, there's really nothing holding it. It was clamped onto this plastic tube here. No good. Get a razor blade, cut that off. Don't use a razor blade on its edge and slice. Use the razor blade on its side. I may not be able to film this while I do it, but I'm gonna give you a general idea. Like this. And slice it. You see that rib right there that I just hit? Let's see. See that rib right there that I just hit? And there's another one down a little bit further. That helps prevent the line from coming off. So, now the reason you slice it like this is if you slice it with the edge of the razor blade, you can leave a line in the metal tube underneath it. And you leave a line in the metal tube underneath it, and that's a leak point. So let me get that off of there. Okay, so I had to do that a couple of times, so there you go, and boom, comes right off. And you see, it's actually got a like bullet tip to it to help you get the new line on. Okay, so with the line off, here is the quick connect replacement line ends, the repair ends. Now you have, for Ford, I mean, it doesn't really matter. You have Ford, GM, whatever. The quick connect ends are usually very, very similar, and usually you can interchange them. So if you see that they don't have Ford, they only have GM, it's a different style, but they will usually work. So you have 3/8 and 5/16. Oh my gosh, how do I know what size that is, especially if I'm in the parts store? Well, check it first. How do you check it? With a wrench. There we go. Nice little 5/16. Yeah, 5/16. And 5/16. Now if you grab a 3/8, just so you can see it, it's way loose. See? So you know that's the right size. All right. All right, so in the kit, they give you this section of line. They give you this barbed fitting, depending on how you have to install it. Like if you're just sectioning this into a piece of broken line, plastic line, you can use the barbed fitting. And then they give you this convenient little disconnect tool that you'll probably never ever use. So what you need to do is connect this and figure out the length of what you need, because you're gonna have to cut it to fit. So, I'm trying to do this one-handed. There, it's actually latched in place now. So now we're going to come over here and we're going to figure out where we want this. So let me go get a marker so I can mark this line, because we need to do something here and I'll explain it in a second. All right, so I took my trusty silver Sharpie and I put a mark on that line. So it just goes to about roughly where it was before. So now we're going to disconnect it. To disconnect it, you just have to push down on this tab here. See how it moves the whole thing? And it'll actually spread out on the inside to release the locking clip. So let me do that, get that line off, and we're going to cut it to fit. So, get you set here. And as you see the mark right there, I'm going to take a razor blade and I'm just going to roll it into that and cut the line. Now, you could use cutting pliers, but here's the problem with using cutting pliers. Now you just distorted it a little bit. And also you see how the ends have that little bit right there. So that's why I prefer not to use cutting pliers if at all possible. So now what they tell you to do is they tell you to soak this in hot water. That'll get it soft, then this way you can install it. So let me get some hot water and let's do that. So I may not have mentioned, they give you an instruction sheet too in here. And they tell you, oh, gasoline is very flammable, in case you didn't know it. Let's see. Cut it, soak the line in hot water for 10 minutes. Okay, so this is hot water. This is actually from my teapot. So I'm going to let this thing sit in there for about 10 minutes. All right, so it's been about 10 minutes. Let me take this tube out and just whip the water off of it. Let's see how this works. Oops. I didn't want to do that. You gotta be careful. Putting a lot of pressure on that thing. And of course it's in a bad spot. Putting a lot of weight into this thing. I don't know what you're able to see, probably not much. That's about as far as that thing's going. I should have probably lubed up the inside, but I kinked it. I'm not happy about that. I'll be honest with you, I'm gonna get another one. I'm not happy that I kinked it. So, because that makes for a weak spot. And then some of you would probably say, hey, you can still use it, but I'm not happy about it. I'm going to get another one. And then I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to lube the tube when I do it. All right, so I cut the line. Here, it's coming off. I have a new one on its way. I could save this. I could use this for something else, because it only kinked at the very end. See it? But I don't trust it, because that's a leak point. So, my bad, I messed it up. So I'm just gonna cut this, hold on to this, because this will definitely come in handy for something else. And then we're gonna do that all over again, but we're gonna do it the right way. Okay, let's try this again. I have the tube in boiling water and it's cut to length. Let's try doing this without messing this one up. And hopefully I can get it all the way on. Sometimes you can't get it to the second rib though. Oof. This is not going on at all. What the hell is going on here? See, and now it's cooled off. I may actually have to get a heat gun, and I hate using a heat gun, but I may not have a choice here. The heat gun has a red hot element inside of it. But like I said, I may not have a choice. I don't have a gas tank in this thing, but I do have gas that's dripping out of the line. So, yeah, I think I'm going to have to do that. I'm going to have to do the heat gun trick. Hate doing it, but I have no choice at this point. Okay, so what I'm going to do is low heat on my heat gun here. And like I said, you got to be, oops, sorry, I knocked the camera. You got to be super careful when doing this because there is a red hot element inside here. And it's not super hot. I have it on its lowest setting possible. I'm more concerned about getting the metal tube hot. I don't know if it's because the fuel was flowing through it. No idea. It's possible. It's getting warm now. Because fuel is dripping back out of it because the temperature's going up in the shop. Makes things expand. You don't want to overheat it so much because there's a brake line right next to it too. You don't want to boil the brake fluid. Alright, let's see. It's not hot to the point where I can't even touch it, so that tells me it's not that hot yet. Let's see if that did anything. Yeah, it did. There it goes. And it went in place. All right. So that's perfect. And you can see it's bulged. So now as it cools off too, it'll sit better in place. So let me let that cool first before I connect to that end. Okay, so there we go. It's in place. That's how it's supposed to be. Now the reason I wanted to wait for it to cool off because I didn't want to accidentally kink it because you do have to kind of bend it a little bit to get it onto the filter. If I'm not mistaken, the way you do these anyway is you have the filter kind of out of its bracket, and then when you're changing the filter, this way you're not like really overly bending the lines. So all right, so that's in place now. That's clipped, so I'm happy about that. Let's go on and let's get those hoses changed on the tank. I put the tank there, and I'll explain that in a minute. Okay, so what I wanted to get at here was we took the tank off the jack, so we didn't leave it up on a jack overnight. So I put it down on the floor, and I realized the fuel pump was moving around. Somebody had just changed the fuel pump. I think we discussed that in the first video. And I realized they didn't bother to put a seal in there. So that's probably the reason for all of this crap around the tank. So I got a new seal here. We're going to put the seal in, and the seal basically just sits on top here in that like little receiver groove. It's going to go in there like this. Just a loose fit. And then the pump goes in, and the pump has notches. So the larger one is there, the smaller one is there, which tells me, if you look, there's a small one there and a large one there. It's going to go in sort of this way. I can't do this single-handedly, so I'm going to get this installed, and I want to talk about that tool there, and that tool there. That's a Harbor Freight pump that you can use for fuel, and I tell you what, I think it's 15 bucks. Works phenomenally. It works unbelievably well. It uses D-cell batteries of all things, but it works extremely well. So I bet you somebody else makes that for Harbor Freight. I'm going to see if I can't put a link in there for that. And this I've gotten from Matco. It's a kit It's for the lock rings, but if there's other adapters for it, and I'll show you that in a minute. And putting these fuel tank lock rings back down in place can sometimes be a bear. The plastic to plastic, sometimes it just does not want to go together. Make sure you can get it to start to screw on by hand before you start to use the tool. This went on several turns, but now it's at a point where I'm almost at a stop. I'm going to have to use the tool to actually get it down further. And as you can see, it still has a pretty good gap in here before it's actually tightened down. All right, so now that's down and tight. You don't have to go bananas. I've seen people tighten these things up so much they snap the ends of these ribs off. So it's nice and tight. The pump does not move, so it's tight up against the seal. Like I said, this tool, it's got a Matco name on it, but I'm sure there again somebody probably makes this for Matco. Let's see. I'll see if I can't find it on Amazon. But here's the kit, and like I said, this thing is phenomenal. It works very, very well, and it has these other two adapters for the other style lock rings. But yeah, and not for impact use. Yes, do not use impact on it. You'll break the darn thing, or you'll break the vehicle, or the lock ring on the vehicle. So, all right, let's get that hose changed. Let's get this tank back up in the car. Okay, so with the new fuel feed hose in place, now here's the vent hose, and it's a Gates 4219 XL fuel line. It's 3/4 inch. Not for fuel injection systems. That'd be a heck of a fuel injection system, being 3/4 of an inch. But it's made for PCV also. I'm curious what PCV uses 3/4 of an inch. If that's like diesel something, I have no idea. Pretty big though. But yeah, so we're gonna get this in place. This is just bulk hose. That's a formed hose, obviously. This is a little thicker than I'd like, but I have no choice behind the matter. So I'm gonna get this put in place with some clamps, and then we're gonna put this thing up and in the vehicle. Okay, with those hoses in place, it should look like that or something similar. So obviously, I don't know exactly where this is gonna be, but this thing can move a little bit like this or this. It has enough flex in it where it's not gonna hurt anything down here. Okay, yeah, so everything here is in place. This I can reach later on, doesn't matter, but I just don't want it to get hung up on anything. Let's do this to keep it from getting hung up. Maybe I'll do that. I don't know. Yeah, maybe not. Okay, just stay there. It's not going to hurt you to spray a little WD-40 where you have connections going together that may not be easy to get to later on. These two take locks, but the little locking clips. I'll worry about that later. You can even spray the electrical connector, make your life a little bit easier. I'll spray this one too as I go up. Trying to show you this is near impossible, but basically it's reverse procedure to install. We're just gonna, what you do is you take these hoses and you kind of bend them upward as you're getting up and in place here, and then they'll eventually pop in place. Did I show you right? You're gonna bend these up like this. You're gonna start tucking them through, and then you gotta basically finagle them. You'll get them, it's no big deal. But yeah, trying to film this, I'll never get a good angle on anything to show you. So let me get this up in place. Now, one thing I can show you is, because I took all the fuel out to make it light, I picked the tank up and I got it wedged up in here just to hold it in place. Now I'm gonna get my jack up in place, and yes, you could do this on your back if you want to. I wouldn't want to, but you can if you want to. Now I'm gonna lift the jack up and get that kind of in place, because I still gotta put the side shield on. But as I'm doing that, I still have to maneuver those hoses. So maybe I'll show you as I'm getting up in place. So basically it's going to look like this as you're going in place. The hoses will straighten themselves out because the hoses are not in a kinked position like they were originally. But yeah, so just like that, as you're going in place, and they will straighten themselves out. And as you're going up and in place, now's the time to start hooking up those fuel lines and stuff like that. Getting the lines on is actually easier through the frame rail on this side from the beginning, but the one line that goes straight down, you can just see it, it's got the 90-degree angle. That's actually easier from the other side. But I wanted to show you this, the hoses, as you're feeding them through, make sure you just pull down on them slightly, because they'll catch on like body lines and stuff like that, seams. So just keep doing that till you get yourself in place. So the tank is up and in place. I still got to put the straps on, but all the lines are connected up top. The wiring's connected. As you see, I put the hoses to the outside there. I'm going to catch the straps on here first. I'm going to put the dry shaft in, and then we'll worry about the hoses last. Okay, so what we got left here are the fuel hoses. Now don't be afraid to spray some WD-40 on there to get them lubricated to make it slip on easier. And yes, you can bend these things to fit. And that's basically what I'm going to do. I'm not going to be able to film this and get my arms and everything else up there to do it. So let me just get them in place. Also, put the clamps on this side. Makes your life a little bit easier later on. All right, so there we go. The hoses are in place. Man, I tell you what, they fought me to go on. They were tough to get in place. But I got them. The fill pipe was actually flexing so much that I had to have a pry bar up there and hold pressure on it so this way I could get the hoses on. I wound up taking the wheel off the left rear to have access through this way to do it. All right, let's get the wheel on and this should be done. Okay, just reconnected the battery. I put fuel back in his vehicle. There for right now. Cycle the key. Okay, so now we're going to go up in the air and we're going to inspect my work, make sure we have no leaks. All right, so we're underneath here. The fuel line looks good. So you can see it shrunk down and the ribs are more pronounced. See them? So that's all good. So obviously I'm not going to be able to see if this is leaking until we go to put fuel in it. So, but everything else looks good. I don't like the way these shields sit, but there's nothing I can do about it. All right, and of course the clip is broken on the frame there. Not on the frame, but the one on the body harness. They broke the retaining portion, so it doesn't hook into the clip that's on the frame right there. See that white thing? That's the clip retainer. So, okay. Let's take her on a road test and put fuel in it. Okay, it's taking fuel. That's good. All right, so I'm back at the shop. Everything went well. Yeah, so hopefully you learned something on that one. Hopefully you got something out of that. It was interesting. I'm surprised I kinked that line. I mean, it happens. What are you going to do? But like I said, I could save that line for something else. Because usually I don't need them that long. That was a pretty long section. So just cut off that part right where it kinked. So anyway, all right. Hang on. That was a seatbelt chime. Because obviously I don't have my seatbelt on right now. And I had it running. And Ford likes to set you the chime off to let you know, hey, stupid, you don't have your seatbelt on. But anyway, all right. So hopefully you got something out of that. If you did, hit that like button. If you could, please subscribe. All right, guys, have a great day. Oh, and like I said, I'm gonna try to find those tools that I used and put the links in the description for you, just to help you out. Because usually you can get the stuff from Amazon, most of this stuff. Direct Harbor Freight stuff, no, you can't. You know, obviously direct Matco stuff, you can't either. But all right, so that's it. All right, guys, have a great day. Keep wrenching.